Hey class, how are y'all? I hope you're having a good day. I'm not in my office today. I just got done with a little road trip, so I'm in a hotel. I wanted to say I really enjoyed reading this last set of chapters, and we finally finished our book in just about 10 weeks of school. We read this whole book. That's crazy. I especially like chapter 12 on the effects of media on communities and everyday culture. And I decided to answer critical thinking question number 3, which reads, how trusting are you of your neighbors and how trusting of strangers? Were you surprised at the data indicating that violent crime is down in the United States? If so, why? And if not, what would you attribute your more realistic impression of the prevalence of crime? So, to answer the first part, I wanted to say that I grew up in a really small town in East Texas, about an hour and a half outside of Nacogdoches. And there, my only neighbors were like close family and friends, and we knew our neighbors pretty well. And so nobody really worried about locking their cars or their houses and stuff like that. But since I moved to Nacogdoches in 2020 for college, and I did my undergrad here and now my master's, I have had a few different apartments, mini apartments, like 5, and I definitely lock them more. I don't know many of my neighbors, if any, at some of my apartments. And of strangers, I would say, like, I'm pretty wary of strangers, like, especially when I'm traveling, like on a road trip. I was just thinking about this question, and because since reading this chapter earlier this week and stuff, I'm not immediately trusting of strangers, but I'm always kind, of course. And then to move on to the second part of the question, it says, were you surprised at the data indicating that violent crime is down in the United States? And so it talked about this in the very beginning of the chapter and on page 310. With the World Happiness Report and stuff, but then I think it's also referring to page 315, which talks about more, or 319, that talks about more about violent crime being down in the U.S. according to like the U.S. 2019 Census Bureau, I think is what they pulled it from. But I was thinking about this, and I was looking at the book, and it looks like our book was published in 2021. And so I was thinking, I wonder if that's still the case, if crime rates are still down compared to 2021 to now, the end of 2025. So that's just something I thought about. And also, I think it was page 315 or 319. 315, where they ask the 3 questions about their research, the 3 questions pulled from their research on cultivation analysis, where they were asking the questions about do you assume that crime is more realistic or more like how TV predicts it, which is it's more prevalent and stuff in TV. And when I was reading these questions, I actually answered all of the smaller percentages. So I think I have a more realistic view on the amount of crime and violent crime compared to TV, how TV depicts it. But I also wonder if the crime rates are still down from 2019 or 2021, whenever these statistics were presented to us. And then lastly, the last thing I wanted to mention was that on page 319, it talks about how cultivation analysis and those theories like progressed and actually extended beyond looking at like just crime and violence and media and violence, and they actually research was done on all these different areas and content of it on issues beyond violence and crime. And it says that they looked at people's perceptions of affluence of divorce, working women, sexual stereotypes, materialism, mental health, alcohol use, feelings of attention, environmental concerns, work, female body image, welfare, and marital expectations. And I think it's cool that we finally see a theory where so much research, well, maybe a few of the others, but this one, so much of the research, it extended beyond just one area and looked at this lens of media through in many other contexts and stuff. Okay, those are my thoughts. I can't wait to hear y'all's, and thank you so much. I hope y'all have a great Halloween. Happy Halloween. Bye.